First of all, I would like to thank organizers of this event for inviting me to speak in such a prominent audience in front of practitioners of the economy, top business executives, and to present Latvia's story. So certainly, as it was introduced, Latvia had gone through a very spectacular financial and economic crisis. We were really overheated economy. We were growing with some double digits before the crisis. We were running double-digit inflation. We had a current account deficit of more than 20% of GDP. And with the global financial crisis, it all suddenly stopped. International financing stopped coming into the country. We had to nationalize our largest independent commercial bank, putting close to 10% of our GDP in this rescue operation, and it was by the end of 2008 when we had to call in IMF and European Commission for this IMF program. So really it was quite a spectacular financial problem, but at that time it was still not clear how bad it will be as an economical program. Initially, just to give some examples, 2009 budget, which was prepared in late 2008, made an assumption that we would have 2% growth. Year later, a couple of months later, when IMF came in, assumption was already 5% recession. I came into office in March 2009. By that time, assumption was 12% recession. Eventually, it turned out 18%. With all the understandable problems to the budget and to the different sectors of economy. So really it was also a big question at that time for myself and for our party, which I represent. At that time it was New Era, which later merged with some other parties, and now it's Unity. But we were in opposition, so we were not really there to overheat the economy. Of course, we were complaining about those politicians which were at that time during the boom years saying that no worries, pedal to metal, now it's a good time to speed up and so on and so on. But eventually, yes, we took this decision, okay, we will come into government from the opposition and try to sort it out. And was that what we were eventually doing.
What was your first reaction when you became Prime Minister in 2009? To open a bottle of champagne or to take out a life insurance?
Closer to second, of course. Well, definitely there was nothing to celebrate because it was a little bit of a particular situation. Nobody wanted to be a Prime Minister. But it was literally like that. There was a government in place, and so those additional austerity measures were coming, and so the government didn't want to do so. They needed to find some excuse to fall, so to say. So they started some quarrel about whether they will downsize the number of ministries to 11 or to 12, and a couple of weeks later, government collapsed on this quarrel. Of course, it was artificial reason, but it was quite clearly that those parties which led the country into the crisis, they did not actually wanted to sort it out.
Surprisingly.
And that's...
and if we land on that, like you said, nobody wanted the job. You got it. And let's be frank, your country was bust, and for a large part due to self-inflicted ills, as you just mentioned. But of course, also a result of the financial crisis, investors lost their money and investors lost their trust in your country. But what do you think caused this chaos? Was it partly greed, or was it part, let's say, a lack of regulation, or a bit of both?
Well, then of course, if we look at the reasons of crisis, then I think it was similar than in many other countries which run into difficulties, would it be US or Iceland or Ireland. It was some kind of euphoria in financial markets. So, and also after Latvia joined the EU and NATO, large capital inflows started. Banks were way too easy with their crediting, so we had a huge real estate bubble, we had a construction boom, and of course with global financial crisis after Lehman Brothers, those capital inflows suddenly stopped. And then the whole construction just collapsed.
And as you say, the task was huge. It was your job to solve. And New York Times compared the crisis in Latvia, you mentioned it in your speech, to what happened in Argentina just a few years ago. A complete breakdown of the financial structure. But you resented it. You actually became a little bit mad. Why didn't you agree in that comparison? Because your country was in a very bad shape.
Well, the country was in a bad shape, but we didn't want to be in New Argentina, so we sorted it out, basically. This is famous, this Paul Krugman quote. But then there is a less famous Paul Krugman quote, which was made this January this year, where he was still insisting on his point. He's like very Keynesianist in his economic thinking. And he kept insisting on this point, you know, this austerity, it's not working, we need fiscal stimulus and all this and that. And then he was saying, yeah, you know, by doing this, no country has regained confidence in financial markets, except, you know, Latvia. But then it was an exception, and then there were 10 reasons why it's an exception, and as a rule, it's not working. But I think what was very important that there was a degree of understanding in the society that we are in a crisis and we need to act. And it was possible to reach an agreement with social partners on this. It was possible to do it without major protest. Of course, people were complaining about this, but there was understanding that if we
But still, compared to other countries, you were actually backed up by the population. They knew this was bad.
Well, this was another example. At the beginning of the crisis, I had some meetings with some Swedish colleagues, and they gave me also some book of a Swedish former prime minister who was writing about crisis there, and saying that, yeah, but in elections it was like whoever was promising most cuts, whoever was telling the most difficult picture actually was winning the elections, and I was not believing it. I said, yeah, okay. But eventually, that's exactly what happened in 2010 elections. Yes, I was promising most cuts because we are still in the middle of austerity, and yes, we won the elections. Well, then we had another early elections last year. We came number 3, but still, there was also some popular support for the government, which is ready to sort out this situation. It's not that whoever is doing some cuts or raising some taxes is automatically punished, because also people understand that there are some reasons for that. And for us, it was maybe easy that we were not blamed for creating the crisis, and that was helping. We came from the opposition when it was quite clearly that it's a problem. My first public statement after that time president nominated me as a prime minister, I came to the media and said that the country is at the brink of bankruptcy, and that's what we need to deal with.